Welcome back, fellow Illumineers, to be our guest. Oh, we've been rocking and rolling so far on these draft videos, eh? We've had our quick hits, we've had one drops, we've had two drops, and now we're into the three drop reviews. And one might argue the most important one. When we're talking about curve, three, sometimes four drops, but usually those three drops are going to be the highest density in your curve. So it's really important that you get this ink cost right, that you make sure you're drafting the right cards. So we're going to talk about it today. And when we're talking about the most important ink cost in your curve, why not talk to the most important person? Hey,
I'm honored. I'm honored.
how is it going? Teddy, this is your first time on the show. This is our first guest of the series so far. I've been flying solo so far. So why don't you walk the people through who you are, what your story is, and why you like talking about draft?
Yeah, so my name's Teddy. I like to always introduce myself as a 20-year-old college student. So I'm on the younger side. I tend to age people with what I say, but that
Oh
may
no.
happen that may happen once or twice here. But no. I've been a part of Lorcana
I'm
since
so
the very
old,
beginning.
Teddy. I'm so old.
I've been a part of Lorcana since the very beginning. I was part of the Glimmer Gang podcast. We started that a few months after it was announced at D23
Yeah.
back in 22. Wow, that's wild. Okay.
Now you just
Uh,
dated yourself.
I know I was a freshman in college and now I'm a junior about to like start my senior year next semester. That's okay. We're not going to think about that. Uh,
I'm glad I'm not the only one feeling old right now.
But no, yeah, I've been a part of the Glimmer Gang. I am a part of the Backseat Genius competitive team. I've been on I don't know, sabbatical to start the semester a little bit.
Sure.
I had kind of took a time away from Lorcana, but with this new set coming, it's always fun to get back into it. I love draft. It's my favorite way to play any game. My Pokemon was my game in high school, and just limited formats were always it's always so fun because I
Yeah.
think it's a nice refresher to have everyone on the same playing field and be able to just say, okay. I mean, obviously people may know a little bit more about like draft strategies and all that, but usually it's okay. What are the best cards and where can you find those? But yeah, draft is really fun. I've really enjoyed it. I'm excited to talk about these cards because I think there are a lot of fun ones in here.
Nice. Well, I mean, I can't imagine anyone's on here that somehow knows me and doesn't know you, but just in case, I'll have kind of your socials in the show notes there. But also, I just gotta say, obviously having the Glimmer Gang and you here from the start was awesome to follow along. My favorite part, I think, of your entire journey was the Glimmer Gang Content Creators Tournament that you had.
Oh
Gosh, was
yeah.
that like more
That
than a year ago
was
now, right?
that
That was like
was
start of
actually
24?
it would have been it was about a year. No, honestly about a year ago.
Yeah.
Uh Today. It was the idea, it was for those listening who don't know, we called it the Glimmer Gauntlet. It was 15 content creators. They were randomly assigned ink combinations. So one of 15, they had to build a deck of rares and lower, and
Yeah.
they all chose a charity to represent. And people donated money, and I think we raised over $1,000. And
Awesome.
Liam Cosmo, Lumineers, DLC commentator, he took it home with Amethyst Steel, and he chose DCFS, I believe, which his wife Erin works for, helping foster children. Uh, and it's a cool because it was a cause near my family fostered children as well, growing up. So it was a really cool event. Yeah. It's
Nice.
wild that that was a year ago. They're nearly about to start a year ago. So yeah.
Amazing. Well, I hope you get a chance to bring that back because obviously doing anything for a great cause is
Hmm.
always lovely to see, and just seeing, people have a fun time together. Outside of the really like hardcore sweaty competitive is always nice, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, without further ado, let's jump into it, which means it is time to segue to past Heath to tell you all about our ranking systems. Obviously, if you've been here up until now, hopefully you've already got this. You can just skip ahead. But if you haven't, check it out. So we're going to do A, B, C, D, F as our rating system. A is first pickable and happy to first pick it. This is a bomb or just really effective card. There are commons that are absolutely within this territory, but ultimately it's something that you're just like, you open your pack, you look at it, and you're like, yeah, this is the one for me. Love this one. Happy to have it, right? That's an A. B is, I'll first pick it, but I'm not going to be absolutely thrilled about it, but I'm definitely very happy to pick this up and have this in my deck. I will always play this card, and I'm going to kind of be picking it in the first half of the pack. C's are your, like, journeyman staples of your deck. You're almost always going to play these cards unless you've drafted so well that your deck's just crammed full of A's and B's. So you're always going to play these cards, or almost always. But you're not exactly thrilled to be taking them. You're just like, okay, these are cards that are going to fill out my deck, right? These are the cards that you want kind of in the middle to last half of the pack, and they're solid. D is, ideally, I'd like to not have this in my deck. I will play this, but I'd like to not have this in my deck if I can help it, and I'm certainly not wasting any early picks on it. These are cards that you are going to be picking up because it's the only cards left in the last third of the pack, right? Ideally, these should all be inkable. If they're that bad, you should not be taking an uninkable card that's that quality, right? And then F is don't play it. And usually that's because they're uninkable and they're like D quality and uninkable. But it could also, there could be some inkable cards that I rate as S just because they're so bad. And in that case, obviously, if they're inkable and you need ink, you're going to play them in your deck because you're only eliminating 8 cards that you drafted. So if you have, 8 uninkables that are Fs, you're going to play an F that's inkable, of course, right? But you should try never to have this anywhere near your deck, and you should only be using it as ink if I've got an inkable F in there. And we're back. It always feels so awkward every time. All right.
For us, that was like 3 seconds. For you, I don't know how long that part is, but it was that long. Oh, there you go.
And I can ramble on, so that's brief for me. All right. So we're gonna start off with Peg Natural Performer, 3-cost inkable, 2/4, 1 lore. An ally, which is something that I'm going to try and call attention to because it is something that's relatively relevant. I'm usually not much for calling out synergies, but this one feels impactful in this set, so we'll call that out as we see them. With the ability to exert, and if you have 3 or more other characters in play, so 4 total at least, draw a card. What do you think about Peg, Teddy?
The way I like to draft is I ignore abilities off the start. I look at base stats with our strength and willpower. I almost called it weakness. I haven't played this game in like 3 months. So
Remember,
fresh
you got really important stuff to do, everyone.
I know. Struggling college kid. I gotta get by, but no. I don't mind Peg. I don't think she's bad, but I don't think she's great either.
Yep.
I think the main thing about draft is board control. And can you have more characters on your side of the board than your opponent?
Yeah.
And cards that are exerting without like using to either quest or to challenge your opponent's characters, I tend to avoid. And a card like this that is gonna rely on you to have more characters out, also kind of scares me because like you could drop a 1-drop and a 2-drop, but you would basically have to know you're dropping those 2 Peg and then a card on 4 to get 1 more card, and you're losing out on taking your opponent's characters out and either questing or challenging. So I think I don't think. Now that I'm like talking about it, she sounds worse and worse in my head.
Yeah. So what do you have her rated at, do you think?
I'll put her as a D. I think she can be okay, but I don't think she's great.
Okay. So I think we're going to get along just swell. I've got her a little bit higher, but just everything you said is pretty much exactly what I've been saying on here, which is kind of start with the vanilla stat lines, which would be a 3-cost 3/3 2 lore. I don't think we've seen a 2/4 2 lore yet. But effectively, this stat line is short a lore on the vanilla front. And yeah, the fact that you need 4 characters total, I usually say that I think the average board state in limited is usually 2 to 3 characters total. So 4 is definitely possible, but it's not going to be common. And when it is, like you said, are you going to want to be just potentially resisting the urge to be taking out your opponent's characters, to be questing, because you don't want to expose your characters to be removed themselves because you're trying to save up for Peg. So I think what Peg will naturally do, and I love card draw. I love me some card draw, is basically make you play suboptimally.
Hmm.
And so for that, I've got her as a C because I think that she's not so far off the vanilla stat line that just as a 3 cost 2/4, it's that bad. And
Hmm.
if you can build up a board state, play optimally, and then if you can get Peg to work, great. Don't play to make Peg work. Um, so like C, C minus, somewhere in there. Do you feel like you can get behind that?
Yeah, I'll agree on that.
Okay. But yes, don't let Peg control you. All right, why don't you tell the people what Mirabelle does?
Yeah. So Mirabelle is obviously a 3 cost inkable. 1 strength, 3 willpower, storyborn, hero, magical, 1 lore, and evasive and singer 5.
Singer 5 for what that's worth. Yeah, so songs there is specifically there is one 5 cost song in this set that I'm tempted by. But songs, even if there was 2 or 3, you're probably gonna draft them very, very rarely. Hitting something in 40 that you care to sing is slim. And in this case, there is just one 5 cost song anyway, so this just is irrelevant. So ignore the singer 5. Let's talk about a 3 cost 1/3 1 lore evasive. That's fairly off right. And considering there's some real banger evasives in this set, I think Mirabelle's gonna fall far behind. She's still an evasive character, and there's some, pump abilities in the set, so I've got her at a C minus. I still think I'd put her in my deck. For me, where I draw the line at C minus is like I'm okay to have it in my deck. D is
Hmm.
like I really don't want it in my deck. I will put it in there if I have to, which is usually why I try to make sure they're all inkable in D. So this is like borderline. I don't really want it in the deck, but I'll put it in there if I draft
You
it.
kind of have to if it's like, oh, I'm at 38 cards. What's the most effective card in the rest of my that I
Yeah.
have? So yeah, I agree.
Okay. That was easy. I would put her below peg though. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
Okay. All right. Aurora, 3 cost inkable 1/4 2 lore. Singer 5 again. Whenever you remove 1 or more damage from a character, ready this character, she can't quest or challenge for the rest of the turn. What say you?
Well, I don't know how many cards we have that heal in this set. I would
There's
obviously
some.
suspect there's a few, but
Yep.
she feels like uh obviously it's a 2 lore character, so that's not bad at that cost. You're able to kind of get a little more lore ramp, but
Yep.
again, if a character challenges into her, she's not going to be hitting back for a lot. Probably will take just a few, like 2 characters that like if you play this on 3 and then your opponent has at least 2 characters, she's not surviving a turn.
Yeah.
Uh, so I'd probably put her in C, but I would put her above Peg for now.
Okay. So let's play the vanilla test again. She's one off the stat line. Like I usually kind of add them up. So like the vanilla
Yeah.
would be 6 strength and willpower, 3/3, 2 lore. So she's one off that stat line. So we want to have a decent ability to justify her. Um, and there is one card. So there's a 1 cost inkable action that lets you remove up to 3 damage and draw a card. That one I'm actively wanting to draft, so that would
Hmm.
work well with her. Pretty much all the others I'm not that keen on, but I'm not really one that likes to play damage removal in draft.
Yeah.
I know some people are much more keen to. So I would say if you really insist on playing damage removal, Aurora becomes better, right? You can protect her. But if you're not, then at that point, as you said, she's just gonna get taken out. So she's
Hmm.
basically 2 lore and eating up a couple of your opponent's characters' turns without doing really any damage back.
Yeah.
Um, I've got her below peg, but I could definitely have her kind of in this range
Yeah.
here. So somewhere in that range. I think they're all
Yeah.
kind of borderline inclusions anyway. So yeah.
Hmm.
All right. Who's Mariano? I know who he is.
Well, Mariano is a magical, I believe. No, no,
He's
is
part of
he?
that gang, but he's
He's part
not,
of
he
that
doesn't
gang.
get that
I
tag,
guess
you
that's
know?
true. His last name isn't
I
magical.
mean, he's getting married to Isabella, so he should
So
be, but
he'll
I
be
mean, he
he'll
was
be in
getting
the
married to
family.
Isabella. I guess Dolores now, but they weren't
I've
rushing it, you
never
know?
seen the film.
What? Okay.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, wait, you're busy. As soon as humanly possible, the next time you would watch
Okay,
something 2 hours in
I
length,
I
watch
have
Encanto.
I have well, I'm going out of the country over
I'll
spring
give
break
you my
next
Disney
week.
Plus login.
I had to do it Disney Plus. I have 4 2-hour plus flights, so I'll watch it
Perfect.
then.
Encanto it
Uh
is. Um,
but Mariano is a 3/4 with one lore, Storyborn, and ally, and an ability that says, I see you. Well, you have a character named Dolores Magical and play this character gets +1 lore. Crappy card in draft. I think just overall, unless you're building a magical theme deck, because I believe there's only one Dolores in this set.
there
Yeah,
is, and
there's
she's
one
terrible.
Dolores.
She's
So
terrible.
I
So
don't I don't
what
want to
one thing
say
I'm going to
I
fight
don't want
back
to
on
say
is I'm actually really fond of this vanilla stat
I
line.
guess that's a good point. I will, yeah, I'm gonna contradicting myself as to
So you were
what I
just
said at the
fixating
start.
on the ability, which is
Yeah.
yeah. So pretend it's vanilla. I really like the 3 cost 3/4s. I
Hmm.
think they tend to 2 for 1 early in the game.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree.
so I have what do I have Mariano at a C plus because I
Yeah.
think like so B is like A is bombs, B is really good for me. C so C plus would be like it's not something I'm trying to draft early. I'm trying to draft in the last half of the pack, but as soon as we hit that last half of the pack, this is kind of one of the first things that I want to pick up.
Yeah.
Um, so I've always been fond of this vanilla stat line. It's never done me wrong. But yeah, the ability, don't play that Dolores to give to if you have this Mariano. You still don't draft her. I
No,
think she is inkable, so she could be a
she
D
is.
if you're like it's your 40th. Dolores is your 40th card for ink, and you know you have Mariano out, and you can quest for 2. Sure. All right. Perla. 3 cost, inkable, 3/2, 1 lore, ally, evasive, and if that wasn't enough, she has support on a 3 strength evasive body.
Great card.
Yeah.
I'm a fan.
Yep.
This is just like the 3/2 evasive. Great. I don't
Yeah.
mind that. Support. Hell yeah.
On a yeah, right? Like I would have expected this to be a 2/3 evasive with support, and even then it'd be good. Very good
I
even.
could have seen this being uninkable. Well, maybe not,
Yep.
but somewhere. If we're
Yep.
thinking draft, this has uninkable
Yeah.
potential.
Like obviously it's a 2 ink character, but in draft
Hmm.
that's irrelevant. So this is one of those times we really get to take advantage of this in this set. I have Perla at an A minus, which would be like not bomb, but like I'm comfortable first picking her, and ideally I'd like to have her second, third pick somewhere around there.
I see this. I don't see her in A. I see her as a B plus
Okay.
because it's a good card, but I still think that 2 willpower brings her down out of A just a little bit. Because as you start getting into turns after, you're gonna see those evasives that have like stats that are able to just take her out right away.
Well, the really you're waiting till 7 drop for an evasive that isn't gonna trade with her.
I guess it's yeah.
Right? So the worst case scenario is that they trade. Really, the
Hmm.
only inefficient trade you have, because all the ones that are going to trade with her, other than this one, are 4 drops. There's a 2 drop Diablo that
Okay.
has that's a 1/2 challenger +2. It would be a more efficient trade, but if that's your worst case scenario and you can kind of wait that out, then it's a 4 drop, and the 4 drops are even better than her, so you'd be thrilled for that trade. So it's really not till there's a 7 drop evasive that you're really worried about her. And there's really only
Mm.
one common uncommon removal. It's a character that shifts 2 damage. There's only one of them in the set that can really remove her outside of that.
I
So
mean,
she's
I
gonna
don't.
run rampant for a while.
I think The only thing is Iago is a 4 cost. It's a 4/6.
That's true. There, I always forget about Iago because you're going to target him like the first thing with any actions you've
Yeah.
got. You're right. There is Iago. I often forget about
But
Iago.
I will concede that is one card of the entire set.
Yeah,
So
one rare in the entire set.
yeah.
Um, so obviously, if you're drafting Perla, make sure you pick up those one cost actions that heal for three
Yeah.
to take out Iago.
Yes.
Yeah. So I feel pretty strongly about this one that this
Mhm.
one is going to play out really, really well in this set. So I'm going to steal this one as an A minus.
Hey, it's your show. I'll concede to you. All you.
Yeah, well, I try to be diplomatic or democratic for the most part, but sometimes I'll play that card. All right, what's our next one?
It's Coda,
Yeah.
smallish bear. Uh, 2/2 with 3 lore. Uh, I like it. I think if you're trying to play that fast game, slap this guy down, get 3 lore out of it. Your
Yeah.
opponent hopefully wastes a turn with one of their characters, challenging into it,
Yep.
and you've benefited. Obviously, like when you see something with this high valor, you're not going to have high willpower or high strength on it. So
Yeah.
yeah, I like Coda. I could see this being in B.
There is a lot of bodyguards in the set. Now, specifically, there's two cost bodyguards that I completely trashed on the last episode because they're uninkable and they have zero strength. But I mentioned in that episode, if you have cards that really benefit from bodyguard, that you would take them higher. This is one of those cards. Now, having one of these does not mean take that two cost uninkable 0/5 bodyguard. But if I had, it's an uncommon, if I had two or three of these and some other things, right? Especially since I've mentioned time and again that this is going to be a slower set. But if you can combat that and you've got some good one drops, you've got some good two drops, you into 3-drop Coda, into 4-drop, drop one of the two cost bodyguards and something else, and you just out tempo your opponent, you can absolutely get in under them. So
Yeah.
this is for the most part going to play out as a slower set, but there are cards like Coda that can get out under them. It still makes me nervous having a card like
Mhm.
this, so I'll be honest, I have it at C, but I'm willing to go up if you feel strongly about it being higher than kind of a
I,
mid C.
I think like if you want to compare it to the highest C we have,
Yep,
I think obviously Mariano has the better stat line, but he doesn't have lore and he has basically a vanilla ability.
yep.
And when you have, I would take the 3 lore
Oh,
sometimes if I'm looking. I would take the
the
3 lore a little
seven-year-old is
bit.
upset in the background. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Just,
Uh,
just, just telling the people. If you hear noises in the background, that would be the autistic ADHD child.
uh, I would feel comfortable taking Koda over Mariano in some cases, just because I think there are cards that you can draft that will have better abilities
Yeah,
with around that same stat line that Mariano has,
fair
and
enough.
I'll take the lore there.
Sure. I don't feel that strongly about it, so I'm happy to put that there. Again, personally, I tend to go. It's funny because I like tempo plays. I often say that I prefer more tempo build, but it seems to be around the three costs that I want to control more. That's why I love that
Hmm.
3/4.
Agreed.
I like a bit of early tempo, kind of 3 to 4 cost control, and then 5-6 drop kind of bombs after that. But again, in a set that's so slow, I feel like Coda is especially well positioned to maybe bust that open, right? So I'm okay with that.
Never know.
I'm just gonna pause for one moment here and just make sure that we're Steph, thank you. All right. Hopefully our noise cancellation technology or noise
I don't
isolation
hear
technology
anything,
will.
so
Perfect. You probably will on the playback. All right. I'll have edited some of that out, but probably less than I intend to. All right. Uh, Calhoun battle tested. 3 cost inkable, 2/4 1 lore. She is a racer if you're trying to make the racer thing work, but you shouldn't. When you play this character, you may choose and discard a card to give chosen opposing character -3 strength until the start of your next turn. How do you feel about discarding a whole card for -3 strength?
in draft I hate it. Just not like this is I would be comfortable putting this in D.
Yep.
Like it's The 2/4 is not a great stat line for this part.
Yeah.
Ability is not great. You don't have it. If this was it was two lore on this, maybe,
Yeah.
but the everything about this card is just not good.
Yeah, so specifically again, that vanilla test, if we ignore the ability for a second, the vanilla test is she's one lore off or a stat off of vanilla. So for me, if the ability is not good at all, if it's just a
Hmm.
vanilla, that's a D. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm with you. This ability is vanilla to me. Like it's
Yeah.
not because every once in a while, which I think is for me is the quintessential D plus, is every once in a while it may be worth that card. That -3 strength is so valuable to you that it's worth a card.
Hmm.
But your cards are precious. I can't stress this enough. I know I keep saying it. It ends up being a war of attrition in limited. Don't
Hmm.
throw away your cards for something like this. Especially
Agreed.
since we had what? We had was it Dale? Uh, was it last set or the set before, where it was the 3-cost 3/3 that you could mill, you could remove cards from the
Oh
top of your
yeah.
deck for this effect? It's like I'm much happier with that. Don't discard a card, please.
Hmm.
All right.
Pepa Magical, Sensitive Sister, Storyborn Ally Magical, 2/4 for one lore, and whenever one or more of your characters sings a song, gain one lore. Obviously, we look at that and it's kind of meant to be used. Like you can say this, okay, you just did it for me. There you
Should we
go.
just put it by Calhoun? It's the exact same thing, pretty much.
I mean, yeah, I mean, yeah,
You will.
yeah.
So notably, there is a couple songs in the set that I like. I think there's a couple of
But the
two
thing is, there's
cross.
only 5 songs in this
Yeah,
entire set.
exactly. Um,
So,
yeah.
yeah, it's just
Yep.
not great and limited. We can
So
move
I would
on.
put her above Calhoun in that the ability is probably going to trigger more than you ever want Calhoun to do.
Hmm. Hmm.
But still feel that that's like a D plus.
Hmm.
All right. I'm curious what to think about this one because I rated it pretty highly, but I don't know. Giant Cobra, 3-cost inkable, 4/4, 1 lore with Vanish, which is when an opponent chooses this character for an action, banish it, specifically an action card, not an ability. When you play this character, you may choose and discard a card to gain 2 lore. How do you feel about this?
I don't mind it. Obviously, the 4/4 is amazing.
Yep.
Uh, there are gonna be some I think there's a solid amount of one drop in like, I guess especially one drop actions that are good. Restoring the heart is great, like to remove damage and draw a card. Wake up Alice or return chosen damage character to the player's hand. That can change a game. Removing being able to do that.
Wake
Uh
Up Alice wouldn't affect this though, right? Because you'd return
well
it to the hand before the Vanish ability
well
resolves.
I'm just saying that's a good one
Oh
drop
yeah, yeah.
action
Okay,
that
fair
people are
enough.
gonna put
Yep.
in there. I'm not saying these would affect it at all.
Gotcha. Okay,
Uh
okay, okay.
And I mean, he's a trained in water, high memory, also good ability. So like there are good cheap things that people could like. I when I'm thinking playing actions index, I'm not unless it's incredibly good. Like for 2 or higher, I'm usually just gonna try to load my deck with characters. So
Yeah.
like I'm just gonna personally I would if I got a restoring the heart, it's going in the deck. It's drawing a card.
Oh, for sure.
And so I think there's some stuff. I don't obviously actions. Who knows how many people will play? Like I
Yeah.
said, I think people choose to play characters more. Um, and you have a choice with Mysterious Advantage. If like it comes back to what we just said, do we want to discard? When you get to gain lore and you get to progress your win state, I think it's a lot different if you're like gaining something else.
Yeah.
Uh, so I would be comfortable putting this in B because it
Yep.
can be decisive. And obviously that 4/4 is great too.
Yeah. So, ironically, I almost see this as two different cars because I see it as a pretty solid body,
Hmm.
one pip over vanilla at the start. Vanish, it starts becoming less relevant, or more specifically, less true the bigger body we get. But I mentioned with Raja, the 2-cost 3/3, chances are, unless it's restoring the heart, where someone can, for 1 cost and draw a card, remove your character, they're probably not wanting to waste an action on Raja, even if they
Hmm.
could banish it. A 4/4 may be a little bit different issue, but especially if you're playing this out turn 3, chances are, unless they're immediately doing that, you're getting value out of it anyway. You're probably removing a small character, and then if they banish
Hmm.
it, not so bad. But I'm probably not discarding a card on turn 3 for even for 2 lore. So then later on in the game, I don't care as much about the 4/4, but if I can quickly and easily discard a useless card for 2 lore, I'm feeling great about it. So I almost see this as like an early game solid card and a late game solid card.
Mhm.
Neither of them are amazing, but add the two together and it becomes great as a result.
Versatility,
Yeah,
essentially. Yeah.
exactly, right?
When you can find versatility in cards, and especially in a limited format, always great.
Yeah, and versatility where both are solid, right?
Yeah,
Sometimes you can get a
exactly.
card that's versatile, but you don't really care about either, right? So I've got it as a B plus for
Hmm.
that reason. But somewhere in this range, and we can play around with the cards that come later. But I think it's going to play out very well most of the time, and the fact that it's
Hmm.
inkable, that counts for a lot.
Hmm.
All right,
He's
everyone's
returned.
favorite squirrel, go
He's
ahead.
returned. Bucky, Nutty Rascal, Dreamborn ally, 3/2 for 1 lore. Pop. When this character is banished and challenged, you may draw a card. I love it. I love it.
Did you see the
You,
reveal for this, by the way? I can't remember the person's name, and I
was
feel ashamed for it.
I did
Um,
not.
it was the best reveal I've ever seen. I'm gonna put
Oh,
it in
was
the
this
show
Red
notes.
Rose? Was this Red Rose?
It might have been.
I think it
Uh,
was.
anyways, it was with this and training staff, both in the same one. But the real star of the show was them doing Bucky. So I'll put it in the show notes just to make sure. Go look for it. It's the best reveal I've ever seen. It was hilarious. Um,
This was Red Rose TCG. Red Rose
perfect.
TCG. Yes.
Okay. Red Rose TCG, shout out you. You did great. I hope you get all the reveals. How are you feeling about Bucky?
I This is like one of my top cards that I want to draft.
Yep.
I have this above I have this in A. I would have this above Perla.
Oh,
Uh
wow. That's strong, eh? Okay.
it's I think the
I
three
can give
strength
you I can give you A. I can't give you a
I think the
Go ahead.
strength does
Yep.
it for me,
Yep.
obviously. And then you're either going to get one quest out of him and gain a lore, or you're going to be able to trade with
Yep.
another character, and he's going to
Yep.
replace himself.
Yep.
Drawing cards in limited is so important, so vital.
When it's not
And
pegged that you need 4 characters up for.
exactly. And I love everything about this. If I see
Yep.
Bucky and like I always think if I see like a bomb that like okay I need this,
Yeah.
but Bucky's a common, he can pop up multiple times.
Yep.
If I can load my deck with like 2 or 3 Buckies, oh my gosh,
Oh,
I
yeah.
would love that.
Yep. Because then you're drawing to your more powerful cards more. It's not that he's overtly
Exactly.
powerful on his own, it's that he draws you into the more powerful cards while
Exactly.
still being fine on his
He
own.
just and if he's like if you pull like a one drop off the top, obviously it's not going to feel great, but it's still advantage.
Yep.
It's
Oh, for
still
sure.
being able to
Yep.
play multiple characters on future turns or having an extra card to ink so you can save another card.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah.
So the one thing that I'll say is, I was thinking about it, and I think if I could, sub this for Maleficent, the 2/2 that you gain draw on coming into play. I think I would rather Maleficent because I want the card now versus having some uncertainty. But in
Yeah.
the early game, everyone's just kind of trading back and forth, so I don't know that that's necessarily true because I think you're going to be able to cash him in pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I do think there's something to be said for the certainty of comes into playability versus non-banish ability. But I think you're splitting hairs a little bit on that. You're drawing a card.
Yeah.
Don't get too picky about it.
Yeah.
All right. Mother Gothel. 3 cost inkable, 1/1 lore. Whenever one of your characters challenges, you may move 1 damage counter from chosen character to chosen opposing character. So obviously, if it's something that you wouldn't be able to survive a challenge from, but it's got 1 willpower left, you can challenge anything into it. It's gone before you have to worry about it, and it's not once per turn. It's not when this. It's whenever one of your characters
Mhm.
challenges.
I like it.
That's pretty good.
I mean, I don't want to like overstack A, but is this A or is this like high B's?
I think I'm putting it at B plus for now, but I
Okay.
think it's probably going to play out better than I imagine. Like
I th
it allows you to trade up. It allows you
Mhm.
to avoid even taking damage again if there's 1 willpower left, or it's an X1. You just challenge in with anything. You could challenge in with a 0 strength character, and as long well, so here's the thing: you've got to have damage on your characters for this to work, right? So that is the
Yeah.
one stipulation. So it's not just 1 damage regardless, right? You have to
That
move
would
the
be
damage,
broken.
right? Yeah, that would be absolutely busted. But in theory, that's an asset, right? You get to heal your character while damaging theirs, but it does
Hmm.
require some workaround. So this is where I've often found I keep repeating myself, and I hadn't really thought about it. But I mentioned a lot of things being clunky or a lot of things needing work to make them good. This isn't just on the surface overly powerful if you're not really planning around it. But as long as you're thinking about how this impacts the other things that you're doing, right? Okay,
Hmm.
I'm going to challenge in with my 4/4 into their 3/3, and then I'm going to challenge in with two other characters and start moving the damage off the 4/4, and do that, right? Like think about the implications of this as you're playing because it's not going to be powerful on its own if you don't make it so.
I think this is one of those cards that if you're able to draft early and build around, that can be very good. Because if you get this late, you're like, oh crap, I got this, but does my deck work for this? Like,
Yeah,
obviously, I think you still be able to get some use out of it, and it's a card that you can kind of just leave standing up.
yeah,
And just if you have a big body deck that you can challenge a lot of things and not trade,
yeah,
and then kind of spread damage,
yeah.
hey, I like it.
And just, I know I've said this a million times, but it bears repeating. There's no removal in this set, so this is as good as it gets.
See, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Let's
there's
watch Be Your
almost
Guest
none.
Lorcana.
So
I'll tell you these
there's
things.
a 4 cost panic that allows you to one time on, I think it's on play, move 2 damage.
Okay.
There's Amethyst Coil we're going to see in a second, which for me is hot garbage, but some people might play it, which moves 1 damage when you ink. And there
Put it
is
in F, put it in
two
F, put
cost
it in
action
F.
that allows you to deal 1 damage to 2 characters.
Mm.
And then there's a 7 cost inkable Dragonfire
Oh, yeah, I did see that.
for what that's worth. So there's like no removal in this set. All right, talk to us about Kenai.
Another bear, and this is kind of fitting that my name is Teddy. He's a magical bear. He's a
He's a
1/4 with
very magical
Challenger
bear.
2 and Wisdom of his Story. During your turn, when this character is banished in a challenge, return this card to your hand and gain 1 lore. I really don't know what to think about this.
I think, again, it is a card that if you just don't really activate your brain when you're playing, isn't going to be great.
Hmm.
But as long as you're playing strategically, is going to be incredible.
Yeah.
Because the average or the previous iterations of this one were almost always uninkable, but would be no matter what whose turn it was. If they were banished in a challenge, you'd return it to your hand. In this
Hmm.
case, it's only on your turn, but in this case, it returns to your hand and you gain a lore. So really, what you need to make sure of is that this is dying on your turn in the challenge.
Oh,
This is
yeah.
getting banished on your turn, right? So don't just swing it into some. Don't swing this into a 3/3 if
Nope.
it's full health, right? Now you're leaving a 1/4 with 1 willpower remaining on the board exerted for your opponent to remove, right? Don't do that. Hold it back if you can't make good use of it. But likewise, it could stall out your opponents. They don't want to quest because they know you're just going to charge Kenai in there. So again, not a bomb because it's not powerful all the time, but it's very powerful if you play it well.
Mhm.
And it's sinkable. So worst case scenario, if it's not the right situation for it, not the right board state, goes in the ink.
Okay. I don't know where you want to put this.
I have Kunai at B plus. Probably a lower B plus that because I have both of these at B plus. So I would
Yeah.
say, well, I might have it over Giant Cobra. I think I have it over Giant
I
Cobra.
I'd rather have the 4/4. I just rather have that body and like knowing that no matter what you're gonna do, it's gonna be a 4/4.
I think all of them are great, so I'm not going to fight
Yeah.
too hard on that. All right. Kashkim. It's an inkable
Uh
4/3 1 lore. Did I miss
I
one?
no, I
Okay.
think I like it. Yeah.
Oh, you're a fan of the 4/3
Yeah. I
vanillas?
mean I think I mean I would consider putting this in my deck any day of the week if it was like something I got late. I'm not
Oh
obviously
yeah,
going
yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
target it. I'm not going to
Definitely in this
target it.
C at least. Yeah.
Yeah. I think this could be where do I want to put it? I think it could go above Mariano, but under Koda.
So I'm very much the like I would never in my life take a 4-3 over a 3-4 because for me, I'm not interested in gaining a one ink advantage. I'm interested in those 2-for-1s. So I
I
want to
guess that's
be
fair.
taking
Yeah.
out your 3-3 and then anything else. Even a 1-2 at that point. I again that card advantage, that war of attrition, I want the 2-for-1s. So I'm not interested in yeah, I could trade this for a 4-4, a 4-cost 4-4. That's great, and I'm okay with that. I want that in my deck, but I want the 3-4 more personally. But I
I
think I
want
think these two are so
I
like
yeah.
51%, 49% that you could put
Hmm.
it anywhere.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. All right, you want to read us this Amethyst Coil?
An item, magical touch during your turn. Whenever a card is put into your inkwell, you may move one damage counter from chosen character, chosen opposing character.
And it's
F?
uninkable. Don't forget that part.
F?
That matters very much as far as
Is
how I
it
consider this.
appropriate to say F? Because I just think this is
It is an
bad.
F. Yes, all
Okay.
right. Hooray, we agree. Because 3-cost uninkable items would have to say, you're halfway towards
Win.
winning the game for me to want to play it.
You win the game if you activate.
Right. Which is slight hyperbole, but still, like, I'd need to probably be moving 3 to 4 damage before I'm okay with having a 3-cost uninkable item in my deck.
Mhm.
And there's no guarantee you're going to have this out in time. And if you're playing this on turn 3 and not affecting the board, especially knowing there's not very many 1 and 2 drops that you want to be playing, that's not a good place to be. So when are you playing this? Turn 5? When you're only going to ink one more time, maybe 2 more times in the game? Like, when is the good time to play this?
Mhm. Never a good.
Okay, excellent. F. All right. I know that there's some people out there that are really a big fan of these coils, and I just have to speak to it. Hey, look, we've got an even worse vanilla.
Why do I keep getting animals? It's just weird.
Thomas
Uh,
O'Malley, 4/2/1 lore. Might as well be vanilla because it's got
Archazia.
ward in a set that doesn't really. I mean, we've established there's a moving damage thing, so it's not nothing. I can't stress enough. Ward isn't nothing. It's just almost nothing.
I feel like wars, like in especially in limited, it's hard to find any true use out of it.
Yeah,
I feel like it's D.
yeah.
I don't, yeah. I would put it, what does Calhoun do again? I would probably put it ahead of Calhoun, but under.
Pepper, agree with that.
Yeah.
That's exactly where I was thinking. Love it. I told you we'd get along. All right. Walk us through the next one. You get the wordy ones, is what you get.
That is true, actually. I got my order mixed up. Hiro Hamada, Future Champion, 3/3 for one lore. Storyboard hero, inventor, origin story. When you play a Floodborn character on this card, draw a card. This is obviously meant to be used with the Floodborn hero. So if you get that and you can pull this off,
And the
props to
Floodborn
you.
Baymax,
Oh yeah. Wait,
the
no.
universal shift.
Oh yes. Yes, 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 yes,
That's where
yes.
I want to play this. I don't actually want to play this with the 7-drop hero. Though it becomes a 4/6/3 lower evasive if you shift that onto here. So that's nothing to scoff at when you draw a card for the shift. So I would probably need to have a couple of these. So here's the order that I would need. I would need like 2 Baymaxes before I take my first hero. And then I'd need like 2 heroes before I'm taking the 7-drop hero. Because a 3-cost 3/3 isn't a terrible stat line, right? It's not the end of the world if you don't get it off. But if you can get 2 to 3 shift characters that could shift onto it, and there's a
Yeah.
decent chance, Um, I'm not naive. I don't know what the stats are, but I've often found that I need like 5 to 6 cards in a deck to feel comfortable that I'm going to draw it once per game. So
Yeah.
half of that, 2 to 3, I feel like, half of the games I'm going to draw it. So if I knew that half the games I'd be able to shift this and draw a card, the other half it's a minor dip off of the vanilla stat line. I'm okay with that. I'm not thrilled, but I'm okay with that.
Not bad. It's not good either. Middle of the road.
C minus, like.
Yeah. I think I would put this in between Peg and Mirabelle.
Yeah, I can get behind that. That's almost exactly where I was thinking. All right. Yeah, see, I get the mine's easy. I get the vanillas. We got Berlioz, Mischievous Kitten. He is an ally, and he's a 2/5/1 lore vanilla, which notably is one stat over vanilla normal vanilla stat lines, one pip.
See?
Oh no, that's not true. He's exactly the same. He's 3/4 shift. Sorry, I was thinking the two lore. No, he's exactly vanilla stat lines. He's just shifted down one strength, up one willpower.
Yeah.
I'd rather the 3/4 over this. Like, I'm usually keen to have more willpower than more strength, but for me, it's like three strength is where things start actually taking out
Mattering.
characters.
Yeah.
Two is kind of, eh. How do you feel about the 2/5 versus the 3/4, 4/3?
I like the 3-4-4-3 better.
Yeah. How far down do you feel like it drops?
I think it can go right behind them. I don't
Yeah.
I think it's right there. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I'd agree with that. Like notably, there's a lot of it was almost a meme yesterday. There was a lot of two cost tutus in this set.
Hmm.
So it does well with those. All right. You get Pacha.
I I'm gonna read the card before I say what I think.
Yeah.
Pacha,
It's
checkmate,
all right.
sword
Like
one
I said, we don't
hero.
we don't worry about structure too much here. We can kind of wing it, talk about it, and then describe it.
3/2/1 lore and full pack. Will you have more cards in your hand than each opponent? This character gets +2 lore. So if I can't remember, do you have hand advantage if you're going first or second? If like you're just
So
drawing
if you're going
regularly.
second, if you're on the draw, you're
That's
gonna have
it.
more cards than your opponent typically.
So like if in theory, if you know that,
Yep.
it's like if you go into the round, you're like, okay, yeah, that could work. But if you have like obviously I think every person's gonna try to get some card advantage in their deck.
Yep.
Uh so I don't mind it. I think again, I
Yeah.
just I hate to it's just, we're gonna load up the C category, but it's middle of the road, I think.
Yeah. I've got no problem bumping ones off into D if C gets too overloaded. Uh, because not everything can be C, right? Like, can't
Hmm.
have 20 C cards, then you're looking for 20 cards just at 3 drop alone that are going to be in the last half of the pack. That's not going to happen. So I tend to drop ones off if it gets too
Yeah.
overloaded. So for me, yeah, I like this on the draw, hate it on the play, but it's inkable. So it's like, for me, I had this at D plus, but I think this might be a C minus because D plus for me is like 10% of the time it's usable, the other 90% it's ink. Whereas C minus would be like, 50/50. And it's not going to be quite 50/50 because you're going to have times where someone on the play gets some card advantage, right? So let's say, 40% of the time this might work. You know, that's all right. I think I'd put it, I don't know. I want Hero to work, so I want to put it below Hero, but it's probably above. I don't know.
Yeah, I'd say just know it when you have any chance to gain lore, I think it's above
Yeah.
something like hero.
All right. Hey, I got a wordy
Ish.
one. We got a three cost uninkable Mr. Smee efficient captain for 3/3, one lore. Pirate for what it's worth, because there is some cards that care about pirate. Whenever you play an action that isn't a song, you may ready chosen pirate character. So very few. Yeah, for a three cost uninkable, that's an F.
Yeah, that is
It's a character, so
yeah.
I'll put it above Amethyst Coil. All right, take it away.
Anastasia, bossy stepsister, storyborn ally, 3/1 for 2 lore. Oh, I hate this. Whenever this character is challenged, the challenging player chooses and discards a card.
I like the inflection there.
Thank you. I was a voice actor in another life. Uh, I can do really weird things with my voice, but I don't really know why. So that's my
Feel free
excuse.
to just kind of, layer that into the rest of the episode.
I'm gonna start talking really high. No. I don't mind it. Obviously, we need to you make your opponent discard.
Yeah.
It's really good. The 3 strength, it could probably trade with a good amount of things, even though it's
No.
gonna die. The 2 lore is great. I would put it in B, but I feel like with how your reaction, you may not have it as high.
I have no poker face on. So here's my problem. If it was a 3/2, I'd probably feel a little bit better about it. But you're kind of thinking about it on curve, right?
Hmm.
What happens when you play this on turn 5 or 6 and we're at empty hands almost by that point? Um, and I can run my one, two strength character into this. Um, it's fine. I definitely think it's playable. I just don't think it's anything that I'm particularly thrilled about. In fact, I'd probably take it below. Personally have the 4-3 below the 2-5, but I'd take it below Kashkim. Um,
Yeah, I can see that. I'll
It's
agree.
and also the reason I mentioned 3-2 is because there isn't much removal in the set, but what there is one,
Hmm.
right? Moving one damage from the 2-cost action. Um, so what removal there is, one willpower really suffers from that.
Hmm.
So I don't know. Again, it's one of those things where to some degree, like we're basing it off of prior experience, but to some degree we have to actually play it out to see how it plays out with the rest of the set. But like I'm fine to put it above there if you feel strongly about it, but personally I'd have it probably here.
That's fine. Yeah.
Okay. Cool, cool. Yeah. Ink Geyser.
Everyone's.
Yeah.
I guess this is. I keep getting lost on who just talked.
It's all right. I technically am okay. This is what I'm talking about. Is I get lost as well. So it's like at some point we just audible. It's like, you go ahead. 3-cost uninkable action, Ink Geyser. Each player exerts all cards in their inkwell. Then each player. I'm just gonna do this while I read this. Then each player with more than 3 cards in their inkwell returns a card at random from their inkwell to their hand until they have 3 cards in their inkwell.
I think it could be funny. That's all I'll say.
I'll
I
give you
think you
that.
could.
Maybe it could be fun.
I think you could get some laughs out of that
Yeah.
and
All
make
right.
people upset.
Why don't you go ahead with Emerald Coil?
Oh god, item shimmering wings during your turn. Whenever a card is put into your inkwell, chosen character gains evasive until the start of your next turn. See, you see,
Why'd they
you
have to make
see,
it uninkable?
Heath, I don't really know that. I don't have that answer for you. But I do have this answer that I don't think this is an F. I think this is a D because I think in some scenarios, I don't say that word like that. Some scenarios you can you can start talking a bit there, mate. Scenario, anyways.
Told you could
Uh,
just kind of thread it in through the rest of
I
the
know.
video.
Uh, yeah, I don't think I think in some specific instances it can be really useful
Yeah,
if it's your only thing to play on three. You can kind of make your ones and two costs if you choose not to ink with them or not
yeah,
quest or challenge with them. You can kind of keep them alive for a while if you want to.
yeah,
So I'd put it in D, but I'd put it at like a D minus.
yeah. See, my problem again is when am I wanting to play this? Because if I play this on 3, I'm getting out-tempoed for sure. If I play this on turn 5 or 6, I'm almost out of times I want to be inking. So when is a good time to play this?
When you have nothing else to play.
Which is like turn 6 or 7, which means you've run out of times that you're going to be inking. Like
Yeah, well, each their
I
own.
like the ability. This is where
Hmm.
the ink ability matters massively to me. If I could
Hmm.
ink this most of the time, and every once in a while a board state plays out where this would be beneficial, absolutely, because this is a really powerful ability that till the start of your next turn to protect your character is great. But I don't want to just activate this once. I need to be activating this 2 or 3 times for me to really get good value out of it. And even 2 is probably not great value. I probably need to activate it 3 times to feel like I got a card's worth of value out of it. Um, and I just don't see a scenario where I am affecting the board enough to where protecting my character is actually winning me the game, that I haven't fallen behind too far. Because protecting your character only really matters if you're the threat. If anyone hasn't kind of heard the expression "who's the quester," right? Who is the threat in this game? Who is going to get to 21st? And for this card to matter, you have to be the one that's pushing to get to 21st. And if I'm playing this card, chances are that's not the case.
See, kids, if you're listening at home, if you're using those eardrums of yours, this is why you listen to the top 64 player and
Oh
not
gosh.
the guy who hasn't played this game in 3 to 4 months. Moving
I
on.
mean, I feel like there's certainly debate. Knive, who is an amazing drafter, an amazing player, I heard that he had a draft deck where he had three of these in there. So Knive, if you watch this, please get in the comments and tell us how did that three copies of this work in your draft deck? Because again, there are situations, like you said, where it's going to be
Hmm.
impactful. It's just I don't think that that's going to be the case often enough to include a three cost uninkable in your
Yeah.
deck
Yeah.
that does nothing on its own. All right. Do not no. Yes, me. Yes.
Yeah.
Denahi. Three cost inkable, 3/2, no lore, because he's got reckless, but he's got resist +2. What do you think?
This is great. I love this card so much.
Yeah. Like even a 3/3, it's not gonna take it out. Um, Yeah, I'm pretty happy with low with good efficiency reckless. Like obviously questing wins the game, right? But when you know that there's a good amount of times you want to challenge anyway, having reckless doesn't really make that big of a deal. It's like, oh no, I have to challenge. Well, guess what? I was going to challenge anyway,
Mhm.
especially with my resist +2 character.
Yeah,
All of those tutus that I mentioned, those two cost tutus, this just tears them up. Yeah, I'm with you. I had it at B plus, but you know what? I think it might be like an A minus. I'm not gonna put it above Perla, but I'll let you decide if it goes above or below Bucky.
yeah. I'll put it under Bucky. I'd rather
Okay.
have Bucky than this. Yeah.
I, quite frankly, you're gonna be in because these are all commons and uncommons. You're gonna be in a situation
Where
where you have to decide between. I don't know how you're picking between them. You really got to think about where your deck's at, picking between
Mhm.
those three.
Yeah.
All right, take it away with Cogsworth.
Cogsworth, Climbing Clock, 3/3 for one lore, still useful. When you have an item card in your discard, this character gets +2 strength. The can be useful if you're playing some items. Obviously, we know we'll talk about Belle in a second. When you have, if you pull that Tamatoa, sure, have some, but there are also not great items in this set. So it can work in some instances. Maybe D, maybe high D.
I've got one video left to record, and I've rated them already, but I can't remember what's in the four drops. But as far as I know, there aren't any good items in this set.
Well, then let's put it in D because I
I
still
believe
think
I've
the 3/3
got
is great.
the Sapphire and the Ruby Coil as like C minus. So
Okay.
playable, right? But then how are they getting into your discard other than Belle? Um, yeah. I mean, I feel like most of the time it's going to be vanilla. A three cost 3/3 isn't terrible. So like if you've got any sort of item synergy, and you probably shouldn't, but if you do,
Hmm.
um, then sure. So yeah, I feel like somewhere around here. Um, yeah, we're low on D's right now, so I feel like let's put it in D.
I agree.
All right. Li Shang, newly promoted, three cost uninkable, 2/3, one lore. This character can challenge ready characters, and while this character has damage, he gets +2 strength. What do you think?
One, I think challenging ready characters is always nice. I think
Yep.
that's an added bonus. It's hard, I think, to leave damage on on a character with 3 willpower
Yep.
unless you're challenging those smaller characters. So I don't think it's bad, but I don't think it's great.
Yep.
I think we could put this in C if you
Yeah, I
want
think
to.
yeah, I think that it's definitely playable. But yeah, I'm with you. Like, I don't know. So specifically, someone called this out in our top hits video, why I didn't include Li Shang. Like, I'm almost disregarding the second line because
Hmm.
most of the time, a three willpower character isn't going to have damage on it. It's just going to be banished.
Agreed.
So what's your ideal state? They play a 2/2 that you can then challenge, and then it's now a 4/1 effectively. And anything of theirs can remove it. You've gotten a 2-for-1. That's what I'm looking for. That's great. But that's the best case scenario.
Yeah.
More often than not, you're like,
Yeah.
okay, I just played a three cost that I don't really want to quest with because they're 3/3 or 3/4s gonna take it out. So now it's just kind of sitting here waiting, hoping that they play a 2/2.
Yeah. I honestly I could see this being in D. You
Yeah,
know what?
it's
Yeah.
I think it depends on your deck, right? Like,
Hmm.
where this will probably do better is in a bodyguard deck, right? If you got bodyguards to protect this, so that you take out that 2/2, and then you can run this into their 4/4, then you're feeling good about it, right? But just on its own, it's gonna feel really vulnerable. So
Hmm.
I'm okay with
Yeah.
C, or C minus, really.
Yeah,
Um,
that's fair.
Probably better than Hero, even though I really want Hero to work. I'm gonna put him there. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Take it away.
We've got company. Ready all your characters. They gain reckless this turn. Keep going. Keep going. Okay, we're done. Moving on.
Moving on. Excellent. Uh, Three cost. Maurice's machine. It's an inkable item. When this character is banished, you may return an item card with cost 2 or less from your discard to your hand.
Character? Question mark?
Uh, uh Inkable F.
Yeah, maybe
Again,
not.
I've yet to see like there's a
Item.
little bit of the like so Belle's coming up, so I imagine everyone that's watching this knows what Belle does, right? Belle can change the dynamic of how you want to play items, but even then, quite frankly, Nye was talking to me about a scenario where he's like, twice someone got the item where when it's banished, you play the next item for 2 less, and they played a turn 1 Belle and Sapphire Coil on me. I'm like, okay, cool, but they just spent 3 cards to put out a 3/3 and an item that is going to have some impact, but not a ton of impact.
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure I can beat that.
Yeah.
So if that's your best case scenario you got for me for that combo,
Yeah, I mean, well, I'll leave my thoughts for Belle for if
yeah, because she only quests for 1, right? So it's like it's not
Mhm.
like she's being a massive threat. Like if she even quests for 4 over the course of 4 turns, but I catch
Mhm.
up, now you've just burned through your cards, and I've caught up. Now we're in trouble.
Yeah.
Moana, Inkable 1/6 1 lore.
D.
Yeah, like the worst of vanillas. I'd
I
even
mean, I
put this
don't
below
mind the
Cogsworth,
six.
I think.
I don't mind the six. Obviously, it's going to stick around for a few hits, but it's not. She's not returning anything back.
Yeah, that's my biggest problem, right? Because we've had these before. We've had like 1/5s, 1/6s, 0/7s. It's like it'll survive a bit, but
Hmm.
you're gonna go at a card disadvantage because your opponents could be easily able to take care of this without suffering any big loss on their side, other than time, right?
Yeah.
Um, which is not irrelevant, but all right, Gete, we already established 3/4s are just up here, so
Yep.
we can put that there. So, Belle.
Oh,
Why don't you read through Belle?
Belle, apprentice inventor, 3/3 for 1 lore. Storyborn hero, princess, inventor. What a mess. During your turn, you may banish chosen item of yours to play this character for free. Obviously, going to be one of the best cards to come out of this set for competitive play.
Yeah.
For this, it was kind of the situation you just said, and what I wanted to bring up is you're going to burn through so many of your cards, and the fact that you're going to be putting more items in your deck just to
Yeah.
proc this maybe once or twice in the entire tournament, it doesn't, it just doesn't feel great.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, it's the if there was like a popsicle in this deck in this set, something like that. Even it doesn't have to be exactly that, but just some type of low cost item that I'd want to play regardless,
Hmm.
and was worth popping, but there just really isn't.
Yeah,
So yeah, you could make this work, but like I said, even getting out of 1 cost, the reason why this is going to be so good and competitive is because she can sing as well as be a body, right?
agreed.
Now it's
Hmm.
just a body that quests for 1. And so you're going to quest for 1 for a few turns before I can deal with this. But eventually I'm getting out my 3 cost 3/4.
Hmm.
And then what are you going to do? So yeah, I don't even know what to put. Because for me, I'd put her at D, but I have a feeling that that might cause an outrage with some. But
No, let's cause an outrage. Put it in D. Let's do it.
okay.
Let's live on the wild
I love
side.
the art, by the way.
That
Sick.
is, yeah, that is a very good art.
All right, Lucky, run to the litter. It's an uninkable 1/3 2 lore puppy for what that's worth. Whenever this character quests, look at the top 2 cards of your deck. You may reveal any number of puppy characters, which you shouldn't, and put them in your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order.
You know what to do.
I
Keep
sure
going.
do. Oh, we need to do this more often. I like you. Go ahead.
A Pepper, quick thinking puppy, 2/2 for one lore. In the nick of time, whenever one of your puppy characters is banished, you may put that card in your inkwell face on and exerted. Uh, if you're not, I don't really want to. If you're focusing on puppies, you're not going to win.
I wish there was more puppies like this, because this isn't a terrible ability. But
No,
if
it's
it's the
not.
only puppy I ever want to play, then it's pretty off rate. But if I
Hmm.
could have some other puppies in this set that had decent abilities, especially comes into play abilities, so I get a good comes into play, and then I can leverage this ability to get more value out of them, I'd be all for it. But on its own, as literally the only puppy that I want to play, ugh.
Nope, don't like it.
Yeah. I think I'd still put it like a C minus because I'm not miserable to have it in the deck.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's somewhere around here. I think we're
I
already
put a
stacked.
D.
We're
Yeah,
already stacked for C's. So. All right.
Robin Hood. Eye
Yep.
for detail. 3/3, one lore, Storeborn hero support. I don't mind it. I like
Yep.
support in limited. I think it helps where it needs to. I'd say we can probably uh I'd put it in C or above
Yep.
Anastasia, around there probably, I'd say. Unless you want to
Yeah.
put it
I
higher.
think I like it better than the vanillas, right? I'm giving up a willpower
Yeah,
for +3 strength. So I feel like I personally I'd probably put it over Coda, but somewhere
I
in
like
there.
Coda. I like that logo.
All good. I will protect Coda for you. So specifically, I don't love support uh, just blank check for limited, but I like it in his bodies that are a threat. So in other
Hmm.
words, I want to support and then like so for example the 2/2 supports I'm not a big fan of because they're just so easily removed.
Hmm.
So a body that's big enough that you're not just going to be able to super easily remove it.
Hmm.
Then I like it. And obviously the bigger body it is, the better the support it is, right? So
Exactly.
I like this substantially more than the 2 cost 2/2 support.
Hmm.
So yeah. All right. Baymax's charging station. 3 cost inkable item. Whenever you play a Floodborn character, if you use shift to play them, you may draw a card.
Moving on.
Told you there wasn't any good items in this set.
Raya, Guidance Seeker, 1/4 for 2 lore, Storyborn Hero Princess, a greater purpose. During your turn, whenever a card is put into your inkwell, this character gains resist 1 until the start of your next turn.
I think it's going to survive more than Aurora does for
Hmm.
a 3 cost 1/4 2 lore.
Yeah, slot it right in there. I don't really have much else
Yep.
to say. I like the 2 lore, obviously.
Yep.
If we're like, if some, I think that can is always useful to have cards like
Yep.
that. But
So this is something you do want to play on turn 3, and thus will get advantage of probably another 2 to 4
yeah.
inks worth of resist +1, right? And
Yep.
especially that first turn, right? That first turn,
Hmm.
they probably not have a ton that is going to be able to get through the resist +1. Once we start getting into turns 5, 6, 7, the resist +1 is going to be less and less meaningful. But for a while there, she'll do all right.
Hmm.
Yep. I might put this ahead of Anastasia, like it's somewhere in there.
In that range.
Yep. Just know it's definitely ahead of Aurora. Hazu. Inkable 2/3 1 lore. Whenever one of your characters challenges another character, if it's the second challenge this turn, gain 3 lore. How many times are we going to challenge twice in a turn?
Late game, I think. I think this
Yep.
can provide a lot of value late game. If
Yep.
it's one of those cards you top deck and you're like, I am so close, and
Yep.
you have your stronger characters out, I think slap this down, challenge twice, gain 3 lore, win the game.
That's the
I,
great part is you can do it the
yeah,
turn it comes into play, right?
exactly. Yeah.
Yep.
So I don't,
This with Mushu is going to be so sick.
gosh, yeah, okay. Uh, I don't mind putting this, is this a B because of its late game potential?
Yeah, I
You think
think
it's,
again, like I keep saying, I don't think it's one that's just going to be inherently powerful. You just play it whenever, don't really think about it, it's going to be super powerful. But if you plan towards this,
mhm,
right? Then I feel like you're going to get probably at least 2 turns of this, right? Even if I get
mhm.
1 turn out of this, which feels almost guaranteed, that's pretty good, right? 3 lore on a 3 cost before I even have to quest. Great. Um, But I think if you plan around this, you'll be able to get 2 turns out of this. And at that point, you've almost certainly won the game, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think this is probably even like above Kenai now that I think about it. I had Kenai higher on my top hits, but thinking about it now,
It can really it can
yeah,
be a late game bomb.
yeah.
I'll put it in that category.
Just remember, like if you've got this in your hand, obviously don't drop it turn 3. Build out the board state and try and manipulate the game in such a way that you could drop this turn 6,
Uh,
and really get them, right?
yeah.
All right, second to
Uh,
last, penultimate.
Jafar, Aspiring Ruler, 3/2 for 2 lore. When you play this character, chosen character gains Challenger +2 this turn.
Yeah, Inkable too. This is another one I got called out. Why isn't this in your top hits? It's pretty good.
I think it's B
The
tier.
problem I have is I think about on curve, right? I mentioned
Hmm.
Anastasia. You got to think about the fact that she won't always be on curve. But I want them to be on curve.
Hmm.
But on curve, this is bad, right? My 2 drop is probably taking out their 2 drop anyway.
Hmm.
Or I'm not really even playing a ton of 2 drops. So on curve, this is bad. So this is when you actually want to play turn 6, something like that. So um, for me, it's then what's my density of 3 drops? Do I have enough 3 drops where I don't need to play this on curve? I can hold it. If you can, then the value you're going to get out of it's great, right? +2 strength
Hmm.
on a body that's 1 willpower removed from vanilla and just 2 lore regardless is nothing to scoff at. Yeah. Um, I definitely am not putting this above any of the ones we got in B so far, but I'm fine to put it at a low B.
Yeah.
Just again, you gotta think around it.
Hmm.
This is a set that I think is gonna tax a lot of people, like mentally,
Hmm.
because I feel like we've
It's
had
going to
some
take some
sets
planning.
where you just like the card does the thing, right? You don't really even have to think about it. I
Hmm.
think there's a lot of cards in the set that can be really strong if you play them right. So I think it's going to tax a lot of people, which is an exciting thing, right? That means that you can potentially develop an edge if you feel good that you can, think your way around these.
I
Last
think
one.
this
Sorry, go
I
ahead. Yeah,
love
yeah.
I think this is going to be the best limited set we've seen so far with just
I have my
true
fears that there is
thinking
some really
wise.
strong cards. I'm worried that it could end up being bomby in commons and uncommons, specifically the 4 drops.
Yeah.
Wait till the 4 drops. Like, I don't know if you've looked at them, but some of the 4 drops in common and uncommon are disgusting. So I'm
We
worried that it could be a little bit bombier than I'd like. But other than that, take out 5 cards out of the 4 drop slot. I think I'm right there with you. I think this is
Mhm.
going to be an amazing limited set. So as long as that
Agreed.
doesn't wreck basically what's going to wreck it is if a few people don't recognize at the table and just one person gets dumped a bunch of these. If
Yeah.
everyone's taken 1 or 2 of these bombs, it all balances out. But if people aren't paying attention and it gets funneled to a couple of people, that's when it gets a little rough.
After we finish this recording, before I go to bed, I'm gonna go do my research on the 4 drops.
Yeah, let me know what you think after you look them up.
I will.
All right. Orville, Albatross Air, Inkable 4/3/1 lore. During your turn, while you have a character named Miss Bianca or Bernard in play, this character gains evasive. Specifically, I tend to look at stuff like this that requires really specific loopholes and think I don't really like that. So in a vacuum, I rated this as a vanilla. But now that I've digested the set more, there's a Miss Bianca that I really like.
Hmm.
That could make this very interesting. Specifically, there's a 6 drop Miss Bianca that if you have an ally in play, she costs 2 less. So Orville is an ally. So you go Orville into Miss Bianca on 4, and you've got a 4/3 evasive into a 5/5. Um, that's spicy. So specifically, again, I'm not much for jumping through hoops. If there wasn't a good density of allies, I wouldn't be interested in that. But there's like 50 some odd allies and a good like 30 that are very good.
Hmm.
So you're going to be drafting some good allies. You're going to have that like density of 7 to 8 good allies in your deck. Where Miss Bianca is probably going to relatively consistently come out as a 4 cost 5/5. And if I'm looking to draft Miss Bianca, all of a sudden Orville's stocks go up. Um,
Just imagine playing Bucky. He's an ally and playing
yeah,
Miss Bianca on 4. It
yeah.
feels so good.
Yeah. So Bucky into Miss Bianca, Orville into Miss Bianca. And then you do Orville or Bucky into Miss Bianca into turn 5 Jasmine. So 5 cost uninkable,
Rock it.
3/5 2 lore. If your hand's empty and you quest with her, draw cards equal to the number of allies you have in play.
Oh, so good.
So I am normally not one to draft synergy decks, but I really want to make this ally deck work.
I
So
think it could be fun.
naturally now, everyone at my local, shout out Aegis Crew down in Bellingham. If you're in the Bellingham area, Pacific Northwest, go to Aegis. It's an amazing store. They're now gonna totally draft all the ally stuff from me.
See, you're telling them in this, but you secretly have a different plan.
No, legitimately, I can't. I don't have it in me. That's the plan, and they're gonna take it from me. I would say I like Orville kind of in a vacuum here,
Hmm.
because it's at worst it's like assuming you have one Miss Bianca, right? If you don't, it's here. If you got no Miss Biancas, it's here. It's a vanilla, right? If you got 1 to 2, it's like here. If you
Hmm.
got 2 to 3 or 4, it's probably like here. So I think I'll put
Oh,
it like
we can put this ahead of Coda.
you
I'll
you
give
want to
up.
put this at a all
Uh,
right.
I like it. I think we can end on
Ally
a bang
stonks
there.
going up. I'm not much percentage, but that ally keyword this time is gonna matter. Um, Teddy, we did it. We got through it.
Go to
Thank you
bed.
so much. I
Yeah, of
feel good about
course.
this spread,
I
right?
do
We
too.
got 8 cards that we really want to draft. We got quite a few cards that we're perfectly happy to have in, and we definitely got some Fs.
Yeah.
So- but
Yes,
less
we
than
did.
last time, less than the 2 drops. So, we'll take that for what it's worth.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm excited. I'm excited to see what the people say about this because I think we could have some interesting
we might get
conversation
some people
starters.
shred us for the coils.
And well, they can deal with it.
Come at me, bro. No, this is great. Tell the people one more time, tell them where they can find you.
Mhm.
And thanks again for coming out.
Yeah, of course. Right now, I am pretty much basically on Twitter at Teddy_JPEG. I'm just posting random stuff there. I am playing over the next few months. I'm kind of coming back.
Yeah.
Just gonna play a little bit for March, April, and then some of May. But then I start my summer job while I'll be traveling the country doing stuff. So May through July, obviously, we'll take another break. But then when August hits, it's so far away. Like I'm like telling myself it'll get here.
No
I'll be
promises,
back.
people. No promises, but
I'll be back on the grind, back in the Lorcana space full time. So yeah,
love
if
it.
you want to follow me, get some laughs, Teddy_JPEG on X now.
Yeah.
X actually. I'll call it that.
X, get out of here. It's Twitter. Yeah. So if yes, follow so that you can be part of the resurgence. Uh, Teddy Part
The
2. Love it.
resurgence.
All right.
Teddy part two.
Thanks everyone for checking it out. We'll see you tomorrow with the 4 drops reviews with Journey into Lorcana's coming out tomorrow, Oliver. So looking forward to chatting with him. You've been fantastic. I can't thank you enough for your support and for sharing this out, talking more about Limited. Let's get the momentum going with this amazing format. Love you all. See you next time.